Sorry about this. Okay, so now we're recording. My plan for tonight is not to reteach content. Turns out that's really not very productive. I want to tell you what to expect on the exam. I want to give you a link so that you can follow up if you want more information about the exam. Then I want to convince you that it's a lot mellower than you think. I'll show you what I've made on Canvas and we'll talk about the schedule for review. We'll talk about what I recommend that you be doing. Um, and maybe if we have time right at the end, we'll talk about those last couple of days. Just so you know, everything is complemented by Canvas. You have a Unit 11 page. I'll show that to you in a minute. Um, I'm gonna change my screen share if I can remember how to do that. Here it goes. So now you're looking at this page. I will put that link in the chat if I can. Oh gosh. Guess I have to reformat the keyboard as well. Okay, so that link to this page should have just shown up in the chat. Um, if you go to that page, you can get more information about this later. There's a generic course description there that tells you how the content is divided in the class. Um, I'm not sure that this would be very important for all of you, but maybe you can see that this unit that you've missed, these would be some topics that you'd have to find if you're taking the class in the spring term. For the kids who took it in the fall, you got the whole course. For the kids who were taking it in the spring, Unit 7, these are the topics that you might want to chase down. Otherwise, I think we've done pretty well covering most of this. Anyway, if you're bored, you can see more about the class. But I wanted to show you about the exam. I started this yesterday, um, telling you that it's 60% multiple choice and 40% free response over an hour and a half, a break, and then an hour and 10 minutes. Slightly under 3 hours of testing, distribution that mirrors what we've done in my class. And the threshold for passing is really low. I know a lot of students get nervous about AP exams. You don't really have to know everything. You should expect to not know maybe 10% of the points. They should just go over your head, and that's fine. With a 90%, you can still get a 5. So don't stress out about like not knowing things. I need you to accept like a lower percentage threshold than you often have in high school. Um, like in my class, after the curve, you can do pretty well with 50, 60%. So um, remember to give yourself some slack. It's going to be easier than you think. You don't have to get everything right. Um, you can find out more information on this page later. Um, I'm gonna go back to that other screen. Um, so you'll start at about 8. You'll show up. It takes a while to get everybody seated. There's gonna be a lot of like adults running around being really stressed out and a bunch of kids being really relaxed and just kind of waiting for the action. Um, you'll take a couple of pencils, one or two pens, a water bottle with the label removed. I don't know that they really cracked down at Santa Barbara High School lately, but technically, you're supposed to have a clear bottle with no label. I'm not sure that they're going to bust you for that, but you should be ready for that. I'd recommend you take a fancy eraser, like the rectangular white artists erasers. Um, the most common brand is Statler. They're like the rectangular white ones with a blue sticker. Those are really nice because you can erase the Scantron and it doesn't leave any marks. Um, you'll take a snack. You'll be sitting there until they pass out the paper. Um, After 90 minutes, they'll collect all the multiple choice stuff. You'll get like a little break. Depending on which room you're in, the break might be longer or shorter. Um, because students need to use the bathroom. So if you're taking the test in the library, they might have a longer break because there's more students using fewer bathrooms. And if you're taking it in the girls' gym, you would have a shorter break because there's fewer kids with more bathroom access. Whatever, you'll come back, you'll take the free response, you'll switch to pen. You'll work in a book that has lined pages. You'll open it and there will be questions on one side and you'll answer next to that in the same book. Then you'll flip the page and it's all lined paper. You flip the page and it's question 2. So you answer right next to that, flip the page, more answer space, flip the page, it'll be question 3. I'll talk to you more about how to prep on test day. But you'll see questions that are pretty similar to what we've done. Covering stuff that you've mostly seen, maybe 10% will be new material for you, and that's okay. You don't have to get them all right. There's a format of multiple choice questions where they'll give you like a full page of information or data, and then they'll have like 2 to 3 questions about that one topic. That's increasingly common. I don't have a lot of examples of that style in my class. So if you're really paying attention, you'll notice like there's more of those questions than you're used to. But all the other question formats you'll recognize, like a map with a couple of questions referring to the map, or 5 choices and a couple of questions that share those choices, and a whole bunch of ABCD, Scantron. You'll be fine. It's pretty straightforward. Does anybody want to ask me about the content or format of the exam before I move on? Put any questions you have in the chat if you wanted to ask me anything about the format of the exam or the content of the exam. I'm going to try to wait a second to see if anybody populates the chat with questions. Okay, nobody asked anything, so I'm going to move on. I think I've told you this in class for all my students, but just in case, bear with me. I want to repeat something really quickly. I just kind of want to make sure that everybody feels confident going in. Let me see if this will work. I'd like you to find on my screen your average exam grade after the curve in APES. So you don't have to tell anybody this, but looking at this paper, what is your exam average in my class after the curve? Do you usually get A's, B's, C's, whatever? I've been teaching this class for like 23 years, and most years I'll do a survey at the end of the class where like I ask students, and I can also run a report and put it next to the page. And I can tell you that very often, like more than half of my students will go straight across like this. So roughly 50% of the students who average a C on my exams after the curve will get a 3 on this test, as long as they do a fairly average amount of studying outside of school time before the test. This tends to hold true for the majority of my students. So you can see here, if you've mostly been getting A's and you plan to do about 12 or 15 hours of studying, you could expect a 5. This one is probably the most suspect. This one holds true pretty often. This one holds true a lot. This one holds true a lot, and this one holds true a lot. Honestly, 5 is increasingly rare. Over the last few years, it's become less common. Anyway, if you were to go big, like really friggin' study, like you're gonna spend like 1 hour a day every single day, or set aside the weekends and do like 4 hours for like a lot of study, then you could actually go up from the averages. And like, who the hell's ever gonna do this? But I had one student in 20 odd whatever years that did this one. One. I don't remember her name anymore. I remember her face, round face, kind of red face, I guess. She was like tall, kind of punk rock, like hated school. I don't know if she just didn't try on the tests, but I kind of feel like she was really challenged by the tests. And she basically just like did a whole bunch of studying using the stuff that I'm going to show you, and she got a 5. I've seen quite a few kids with like a C average get a 4. That's not uncommon. And I have seen kids with a D average in my class pass. They just have to do a lot of studying. And then there's like the opposite, where like you could do like pretty minimal, like you got to study a little bit, but if you do like a little bit of study, maybe you go down, but you could still pass. If you've had like A's or B's, like you could still pass. Um, I've seen some kids who did literally 0, felt really cocky, and like didn't make it. But I would say if you're like prepared to do this, you could expect the straight across um, pretty reliably. Pretty reliably. We got to rule out the drama, right? Like if you get in a car accident, if you get in a fight with your mom, if somebody dumps you, if you have diarrhea, like, things go wrong. But if like everything works out on test day, I would expect that correlation. Are there questions about what kind of grade you can expect? Please put them in the chat. Don't unmute. But if you have any questions about the grades that you could expect, or like the distribution, pass rates, whatever you want to know, ask me in the chat. Um, I'll tell you that the most common grade at Santa Barbara High School is a 4, which is pretty cool because the most common grade nationwide is a 1. So if you look at the distribution from 1 to 5, the most common nationwide is a 1. The most common at Santa Barbara High School is a 4. We do better than the national pass rate no matter what. In a really bad year, we get like a 54, 56% pass rate, which is significantly better than the national average. We've had like 62, 65% passing, which is pretty banging. That's a very good score for the school as a whole, I mean. Um, Nationwide, only about 10% of schools do better than a 60% pass rate. Like there will be like small populations, like a school of 10 kids where they get 100% passing or whatever, but those don't really count. We're looking at like schools like ours, big schools. By the way, Santa Barbara High School does not compare very favorably to a lot of those national schools. So you do better than you would expect by your school rating, and also better than the national average, and also the most common is a 4. Um, okay. Anybody want to ask me anything else about what to expect grade wise? Oh no. I gotta figure out how to clear all this. Um, uh-huh. Uh-huh. And then I need to press that one. Nope. I need to press. That's going too slow. Clear all drawings. Yay. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. Um, I think it's a lot mellower than you think. I know that students stress out, but honestly, we didn't skip the nuclear energy stuff. We didn't take any of the shortcuts. I think you guys are going to do pretty well. Let me show you what I've made for you to review. Um, I gotta see if I can find this other page. Oh no, does it disappear? No, it didn't. There we go. Multiple choice is out of 4 choices, not 5 choices. Somebody asked me in the chat. Oh, you can all see that. Someone asked me in the chat. Um, Multiple choices out of 4 on most questions, but if they have an answer bank with multiple questions, it could be out of 5. So sometimes they'll give you 5 choices and ask you one question, and this is the answer, and another one that's another part of the same set. That would be more than 4 choices. But for a question with a single set of independent answers, it's usually 4. So your chances are always good to guess, and we'll talk a lot more about that. Okay, sorry, I was trying to find this other screen and I suck at technology apparently. Okay, so now I want to show you what I've made for you to study. And I want to emphasize that I'm here to help you do the studying. I'll be here every Monday. Schedule was on the previous screen. We'll talk more about the plans, but this is something that I built so that you can study. Um, this page is massive. Please look at the shared screen. I have a bunch of writing for you, and you'll notice that much of that writing has links throughout. You can see there's links everywhere. So I've organized enough stuff to keep you busy for much more than 30 hours in the next month. Let's check that out together. When you start Canvas, you'll often have this as your splash page. I think that's supposed to be your splash page. Yours looks a little different. You don't see these and you don't see this. But anyway, yours should have this. You'll go to the Unit 11, which is called Review Materials and Exam Prep. And if you go there, it's got everything that you need. It will remind you of when the test date and time is. It has a section here where I will record each of these sessions. So anybody who is absent tonight by about this time tomorrow should have access to a recording of this session. Then I have all of the recordings from last year's sessions. So if you want to just get ahead and do this all on your own, it's not very different. You'll find this was the 5 sessions from 23. These are the dates for the 5 sessions of this year, 2024. There's a link here. I think this will work. Yeah. There's a link to the review book that I recommend. Most of the commercial review books kind of suck. The commercial review books have a bunch of information that's not very relevant to the exam. The commercial review books are often written to the first draft of our course description. So they were all published when the College Board thought they would do this. Now the College Board is doing that, but most of the review books are still aimed at this content. So review books have too much stuff about earthquakes and plate tectonics and stuff, and not enough about living in cities, for example. This textbook is really old. It's also from way back in the day, but it's basically like hand, sorry, like typed notes from what is shared by all the books, the core content of all the textbooks. And it's like that thin. I think it's like 60 pages of notes or something. So unlike 300 pages that you're never going to read, this one has like just it's like Cliff Notes. It's the Cliff Notes of apes. Um, I highly recommend it. The core content hasn't changed. You can buy it on Amazon at the link that I've given you. So here's that link. And by the way, uh, I'm not a rich person. We talk about money at my house 24/7 because we don't have enough. If you can't afford to buy that book, I have enough. I just need your parents to send me a message. I don't want all the lazy kids to pretend they're broke, so I'm not going to trust the kids. I'm just going to ask the parents to send me a note. Text message is fine, email is fine, paper note is fine. Say, hi, Jose. Our family can't really afford another review book right now. Could you please loan one to my daughter, Ona? And I'll loan one to you. No problem. No questions asked. I have enough. That's the review book that I recommend. It's really concise and really useful. I've also heard that our librarian is ordering a stack of them for the Santa Barbara High School library. I'll give you one hint. Don't wait until the week before the AP exam because every year the exam books sell out right before the test. So if you think you're going to use a review book, then you probably want to order it in the next couple of weeks. Don't wait until the end. Or come check one out from me. Just don't wait until the last minute. Okay. Then I got a lot of stuff to show you now, but I know that you can see it, so I'm going to go kind of fast. I have a review packet and another review that was made by a former student. Remember that one that you met that was going up to Toronto and was really excited to live in Canada? Yeah, that's she did. Um, so here's the one that I made. The one that I made, and you can get this on paper if you want, and you can also print it from here if you want to have it on paper at your house. So I can print it for you, or you can print it. But there's like this thing about how to prepare for the exam. Then there's the official course description from the College Board. There's a review that's like 4 or 5 pages of like all the biomes and then like all the places to know and like it has key vocabulary, key chemistry, some of the basic concepts. So the apes review is a bunch of pages. It's all in the main review packet. There's a section of the most important chemistry for the AP exam. So like some of the more common chemicals, um, the nuclear reaction, air pollution, destruction of ozone, the chemistry that's most likely to be on the test. There's some math problems, and so check it out. Like we've been talking about doing scientific notation because a lot of students struggle with a question in the Unit 5 exam that was like 7.8 billion times 1% or something. So anyway, this page has math problems that you can practice scientific notation. You can practice unit conversions like we're doing in the energy unit now. You can practice some percentages and some other stuff about energy. It also has some reference stuff, like a reference table of some basic conversions if you wanted to practice. There's a page in here, you'll notice it's green, different color, about how to design an experiment. Fun story, I actually wrote this and gave it to the College Board at one of my trainings, and now they're using this to build their questions. So lucky you. Um, we have a thing here about how to design experiments, and all of their experimental design questions are answered using these steps. They might ask you about variables, and here's stuff about variables. They might ask you about what defines a controlled experiment. Anyway, I have a thing here about how to design an experiment. I got a list of the more famous invasive species, the most famous places with major environmental accidents. That's all in my review packet. And then there's another review packet that a friend of mine made. She was a really good student. We've stayed in touch. I want my daughter to follow her to university in Canada. Um, that student had like key terminology in the questions, key environmental laws. She had like a review of each chapter. So what was important in one, what was important in two, what was important in three, what was important in four, and so on. Hers are organized by a different number system than ours, but it's the same stuff. So here's energy resources. And anyway, she made like a mini page review of the course that you can use. After all the content from the units, she's got this cool thing about like problems and solutions that are often discussed on the exam. This is just the tip of the iceberg. These two review packets, that's number one. I have another link here for laws because every now and then they'll ask you about a law. Honestly, that is diminishing in frequency, but if you want, here's the thing about laws. Then I've picked out specific questions that ask you to design an experiment so you can practice the experimental design format if you haven't been in a lot of science classes. So you could go to the 2021 question 2 part 1. Here's a link to that question. And if you go to question 2 part 1, it'll say, what is the dependent variable in the hypothesis? And then you can use the experimental design checklist. Okay. Um, Here's a link that has every FRQ in the history of the exam. So you can practice all of them. I think I still have to update. Yeah, I still have to update 2023, but we'll talk about that because I want you to do these things in order. Um, in case you want them, here's a practice exam in AP Classroom. I can assign it to everybody. Here's practice multiple choice. I have slide decks that you can use, so you can download them to your phone, and like when you're taking a dump, you can go to like the common error slide deck, and they're like slideshows. So when you go through the slideshow, it'll be like uh, a prompt and then like what people make a mistake about, and a prompt and what people make a mistake about, and like a more mistakes, sorry. Uh, Things that people often make mistakes, whatever. Okay. I have slide decks like this for many topics. Common errors, another one for chemistry, another one for famous places, another one for laws, another one for famous species. And then I have a couple of sets of general study slides. These are the resources that I have assembled to help you study. And then I have a plan for how I recommend you study. So these are the resources. Are there any questions about the resources now before I move on? You want to type one? Oh yeah, put it in the chat. Yeah. Also, I believe you can see on your screens that we're going to run out of time in about 6 minutes. So I think what we'll do is we're going to have to take a 1 minute off before we can restart. When we reach that point, if you notice, I just keep babbling and we run out of time. You got to give me 60 seconds and then we can restart. Okay. You'll go to the same link. I have to rest the session for 1 minute. All right. So check out this schedule. If you could look on my shared screen, and I'll try to make this bigger because I see a couple of you are on iPhones. Wonder if I can, is there a way to close this? All right. Well, anyway, for everybody, I have the same plan. For the next 2 weeks is the most important part of the review. I want you to gather all the units that you have of APE's work, and I want you to add more content. This is the most important part of the review. If I told you to do this 2 months ago, you would forget more quickly than you would learn. But because we're within the 30-day window, you'll notice the exam is 1 month from today. Because you're in that 30-day window, anything you write down today, you're pretty likely to remember in 30 days, even if you just wrote it down once. Your recall rate is very good, like above 80% for stuff that you write today. So take all the units, and for each unit, look everywhere to add information unit by unit. This is the most important way to improve your score. Everything that you like to do, like cram and practice test, and I don't know what the hell you want to do, data shows that across all humans, across all age groups, the most important thing that you can do to improve your testing outcome is to modify your current existing notes. You will connect new content to your previous memory map. You will clarify secondary memory cues. If you want to look it up, it's all over the internet. You can just do a little search. Is Jose full of crap? And I'm not. Break everything into units and study by unit. That's very important. So everything you wanted to know about food webs, do all the research that you want, look online, watch YouTube, find better teachers, check other notes, get notes from the students in Miss Khan's class and see what their notes are. And you could easily double your current volume of notes in the next 2 weeks. I mean, let's be honest, most of you for assignment 5.3 or whatever needed about 45 minutes. There's like 40 assignments, maybe less. There should be less. It's like 30 assignments in this class. So you can double the length of all of those assignments in about 20 hours. You've got 2 weeks, so you could easily make double the volume of notes. And a lot of you have really good notes, so you'll just look at Miss Khan's students and be like, yeah, I already knew all this, and you don't have much to add. Check the review book. If you can find like your old sister's notes when she took this class 10 years ago, whatever, anything that you can do to beef up your notes is the most important thing you can do. That's the next 2 weeks. Then things really change. Um, there's like a 3-day period when I want you to do a couple of like building trivia assignments. I want you to do this thing called the Environmental Atlas and this thing called the case studies. Those are just putting little trivia details into your head, like where Chernobyl is on a map or something. And this builds a second layer of memory cues to sort of weave like a stronger blanket to like make more connections between this idea and this idea. You'll have some little detail that helps you connect them, improves your memory. I'm going to pause right here. Give me a thumbs up if you're still with me. Cool. That's everybody. Almost everybody. Thank you. Um, I'm going to stop this session. I'm going to set a timer for 60 seconds, and then we're all going to restart. I'll see you all in 60 seconds. You can all leave if you want.